Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to episode 65 of the Knife Guy. If you are new to my channel or you just came out of some weird corner of the internet, I'm a knife user, knife collector, knife enjoyer of many types. I'm actually also getting into flashlights, as you can see. We are all knife guys and gals and EDC people in this weird, community. It's such a weird world, right? I'm changing this up a bit because this episode specifically is about kind of about some of these new things. But anyways, to continue with my usual dialogue, we all go down our own unique paths, but oftentimes these paths intersect and we experience a lot of the same things, and that's what this series is all about. I like to lay out a bunch of stuff that's either mine or some of my generous viewers who have lent to me, and just pick it up and flip it and give you guys something to watch and listen to while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing on a Sunday. I guess this would be, it's either morning or afternoon, depends on when I upload it. So what are we talking about? Well, first off, thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. If you'd like to get your hands on some cool stickers and some other benefits, there's of course a link down in the description. You're supporting me in the world to me. And make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. That would be awesome. You guys have been great about that, by the way. That is, showing that little card has been great. Thank you to all the people who have recently followed me on Instagram. So this is another hybridized episode, but I'm going to dive deeper into it. I was thinking about, because I have started to, acquire these flashlights, and let me change this to the crazy colored LEDs. Woo, look what the camera's doing with that. That's beautiful. I love that thing. Let me just leave that right there. That'll be distracting. So what I've recently discovered about flashlights that I like, it was what I call a lock-in. I think it's easy to describe what a lot of us like about this kind of stuff is like, it's, everybody's like everybody who's watching, I would assume you have a general interest in either knives or EDC gear or maybe both, right? So if somebody were to ship something to your house, it doesn't really matter what it is, but you have that general excitement about it being a new thing, right? The moment you unbox it, there's a few different things that can happen, and I think it depends on how much experience you have, how many different types of things you've handled, whether or not the anticipation for the item is built up, blah, 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 right? But no matter what it is that happened before that moment, there are a few different natural reactions you can have to the thing. You can have a sort of, yeah, that's kind of neat, or, it's not super interesting, but it'll make a good tool for whatever. Or, wow, I really like this, and it starts to sync up with all the little, things that you look for, right? And then the unicorn experience, the one that we all chase, right? The one that likely everyone here has only experienced once, right? The peak possible effect, the reason that we keep coming back to buy more gear is that absolute lock-in, that peak euphoria that you've experienced, right? Now, truthfully, the knife that has granted me that feeling once and only once, or at least the highest peak of that feeling, is the full titanium Hinder XM18, which is the reason I have purchased so many, seeking that same euphoria over again. Nothing has quite hit it on the head like the very first time I experienced it. That's actually where the term Excalibur comes from. For anybody who doesn't know, the sword and my logo and the reason for the knights and the whole that theme is because I use the term Excalibur to describe the hypothetical perfect, in this case, folding knife for any individual person. Not meaning, I'm not suggesting that the XM18 hits every nail on the head as far as my requirements for Excalibur go, and that makes it perfect for every person. But it does make it the closest thing to Excalibur for me, and all of you might have your own Excaliburs, right? That lock-in, it's everything. It's the aesthetics. It's for me, truthfully, so much of it has to do with the ergonomics, right? But the materials and just how they all interact with each other, and that that feeling hits you all at once, and you know right there. And so, sometimes it's build up for an item, anticipation for the item, wanting it to be something, and then it meeting or oftentimes exceeding your expectations. But it also takes form in, knives that you didn't know that you would love. And many times, many times, I've come very close to the feeling with that from knives that people have sent me, where I flip it and hold it for the first time and I go, wow. And it's just that's almost a more exciting, the idea, honestly, my idea of the perfect situation, now being a person who runs a YouTube channel where I get to handle all this stuff all the time, is I love being pleasantly surprised. And I actually would love for the thing that actually beats that, my next peak, right? Because it's been so long since I felt exactly what I felt for well, not this specific one, but you guys know how many hinders I've had. That feeling that I first experienced the very first time that I handled the XM18, that's when it hit first. And then when I finally got my titanium scale on one for the first time, that's when it peaked for me. That was that lock-in. And I know, or at least I hope, that it will happen again, and that this XM18 will be beat out, perhaps by another hinderer, but perhaps not, perhaps by something else. And it's exciting to think that it could be, something totally unexpected. I love the idea of somebody sending me something, whether it's a viewer or retailer, manufacturer, maker, whatever, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, that looks really cool. I like how that looks. And then you get it in hand and you're like, oh, whoa, like that's actually what I'm excited about, that lock-in. It is very different. Like, for example, this is the Concept Shard. I don't know that you guys have seen me unbox these yet, but I was very, very pleased with this the first time, when I handled it. And yeah, that's a Timascus clip, and this is not, it's a titanium frame lock on S35VN with a Timascus clip, and it is, I think, less than most people would expect for people who know what Timascus does to the price on a knife. But I was very pleasantly surprised by that. I love being pleasantly surprised. Now that is a different feeling than what I'm talking about, right? Talking about all the subconscious, all of the little things that you have decided are, in each category, the best thing in each category, right? What you look for, what you want to feel, right? It is a feel thing, but it's feel and visuals mixed together, right? And when that all syncs up, and you can feel the weight of the object in your hand, not necessarily heavy object, but just exactly right. And it's almost like this electrical pulse that gets shot through your system, and you're like, ooh. And I think I made the joke about Soulbinding one time, long time ago on the channel. And yeah, that's because I've played way too many RPGs, way too much World of Warcraft back when I was in college. But that term it found new meaning after I experienced what I am convinced was a type of soul binding with the XM18. That created such a major foundation, and that's a huge part of it, because when you feel that, whether it is anticipated and then you finally get it in hand and your expectations are exceeded, or it is an absolute surprise, it doesn't really matter which of those scenarios, right? It creates a new foundation. It creates a new bar. And in a lot of ways, I think that whether we realize it or not, we are constantly seeking that new bar, especially if you are. Now, there's a lot of people, again, who are just like, I don't subscribe to all that. I do the, I get a knife as a tool, and when it wears out, I go to the next one, right? Well, then, same thing, though. Same thing there. You go on to the next one, and if that next one is better and it exceeds your expectations, and it's exactly what you're looking for, and it just excels at everything that you're going to use it for, and you're not into the whole enthusiast aesthetic part of it, or the all the little technical things. You're not a collector, right? But it'll lock in. You will lock in, and that design and all the elements that come with it will soul bind, so to speak, and it'll be your new foundation. You will compare everything to that. And I feel like we are all either actively or subconsciously seeking that without realizing it. And that is that's a huge part of the drive, I think, is just not just wanting to experience a lot of different things, but it doesn't necessarily have to be for any one specific reason. It just has to scratch all the right itches at the same time. Not just part of an itch or one of 2 itches out of 5 or 10 or even 7 or 8 out of 10 or however many, how many itches you have with any of this stuff. It just has to check those boxes. And then the final part of it is that when I did the quest for the perfect folding knife series, and I came to that conclusion that the non-flipper XM18 3.5 inch with a titanium scale was the closest thing to Excalibur that I'd experienced. I included a section called X Factor, and that's because an X Factor is that indescribable quality. You cannot, it's not something that you can really put your finger on because it's such a personalized thing. It's a culmination of everything that you expect and want based on everything that you have experienced up to that point. And then it is the moment that that thing, you know, the moment that you, here, give you a visual. You know, pretend with me here for a second. You're unboxing this for the first time, and there's this moment here. And you see it for the first time, and you, oh. And then the next thing, and it's almost like that scene in Indiana Jones, right, where he's not wanting to take it off the pedestal, right? And you finally, you go to, and it, that initial, that touch, the feel, right? If you've never handled titanium before, then you're anticipating what it might feel like, almost subconsciously hoping it feels a certain way based on what you assume it will feel like, right? And if that syncs up and then the weight syncs up, right? The deployment feels the way that you want it to, or it feels natural, and then the knife just melts into your hand and you go to disengage it, everything feels, right? Whatever your boxes are, but that feel, that experience, right? Mixed with the sight and this, maybe sometimes the sound of it, right? I mean, we can't apply all sense. I just put it away on accident. We can't apply all the senses, right? Sight, sound, touch, hear, and smell. Wait, sight, sound, touch. No, wait. What are these 5 senses? Am I dumb? Sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. Oh my God, I'm dumb. So sorry. Obviously, taste and smell are probably not going to be a factor with your knife, but those other 3 senses are big. Sight, touch, and sound, I think. Sight and touch specifically. I've found that, oh, my voice cracked. I've found that, you know, just playing, getting these flashlights, right? I mean, I love that, you know, flashlights get super bright and all that. But I didn't ever really lock in and experience that major, you know, build up and then like the anticipation for something looking and seeming really interesting and cool, and then finally getting it in hand and actually having that confirmed until I handled this this D4 V2, which it had all the customized, like this is the short body I've got on here, the short titanium body, right? Love how it looks, love how it feels. Love the quality of it, and the Onduril user interface, which I have come to absolutely love. I understand a lot of people say that's such a complicated user interface. I love it. It's become second nature, or at least the parts of it that I want to use. Like it's almost, I don't even have to think about the different clicks that I got to do, but also visually, these LEDs. I don't know what it is about these secondary LEDs, and they're rotating right now. They've got high and low settings. I can set it to one color, right? For example, let's see. Let's get it to rotate. 1, 2, click. We're going to get it to cycle through, and then I'll have it stop on a color that it's actually not been displaying. It's almost like a hidden color right there. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's just, I can have it just sit like that, and it serves no purpose other than what I assume is just a constant light that doesn't take a lot of battery. And it lets you know where the thing is if you drop it or if you misplace it, right? Whatever. It's just shining, and it'll do that for a long time without zapping hardly anything in terms of battery life. But it looks amazing, and it's different, and it's unique. And I've realized that when I seek out new flashlights, it's not necessarily going to be about performance with me. It's going to be about these weird little extra factors that I find interesting or I find beautiful. I'm so happy that my camera is doing whatever it is that it's doing with these beams of light that are coming off left and right. I just like this. And I did experience a new type of euphoria for a different type of item. And it was so refreshing, having not experienced anything like that for so long. I've experienced a lot of joy for a lot of different knives, right? But I've become so I don't want to say I've plateaued, but I've experienced so much, and my expectations are so particular. I don't even want to use the word refined, because a million different people could have handled the exact same amount of knives that I have, right? They'll come to a million different conclusions, right? So it's just custom refined, right? It's not like there's a universal definition of refinement in terms of, you know, what constitutes perfection or ideal. It's just for that person, right? I've handled so much that it becomes exponentially harder for me to find that exact same feeling again. I know it will come one day, right? But it's so difficult with knives now, right? But flashlights, I'm a baby with this stuff. It's new to me. So this is, I'm experiencing this. There are a few flashlights out there now that have these pre-installed. It's not like secondary or auxiliary LEDs is a new thing, but like in this price range, this flashlight starts out at about 60 bucks, right? Custom parts, all the body parts are going to cost more, but to get the LEDs in the same power, right? The on-rail user interface, yeah, 60 bucks, right? To be experiencing all that built in at that price range, you bet there's a new bar. Yeah, the light's way too powerful. It's way more power than I'll ever need, has way more features than I'll ever need, right? But I'm going to talk about this in the review. I don't necessarily care that it's got more than I need, because every knife that I carry is more knife than I need. But I appreciate the complexity, the depth, right? All the extra that went into it to just make it that excellent thing, right? I appreciate it for those things. And I now look for those things when I pick up a knife. And this flashlight right here brought me that joy. And I very much expect to handle multiple flashlights in the very near future that will actually, you know, bring me that experience again, but better, because I'm so new to this, because I've experienced so little. And it's fascinating to me. Will I ever love it exactly as much as I love now? I don't know. It's a different type of love, you know, but it's just that lock-in, I guess. That's what I'm talking about. That experience, you know, that's what we'll see. What can be gained from this? Did you guys learn anything? Probably not. I'm just putting a lot of extra words and a lot of extra, you know, complex dialogue or unnecessary dialogue into something that most of us have realized or felt in some way, shape, or form, you know, throughout all this. But it is fun to talk about, and I was motivated to talk about this, or what's the right word for that? I was inspired because of this flashlight. I use it, you know, it's in lockout mode right now, so if you hold it down, it just shows the regular LEDs, but taking it out of lockout mode, which is 4 clicks, right? Now it'll function as a regular flashlight on, and then you hold it down and it goes way up. Holy moly, that thing gets bright, right? Can't keep it on that too long because it's on the short body and it heats up. In normal mode, I've got the LEDs, I think, rotating on low, so you can have 2 different rotations, going back to lockout mode, which is 4 clicks again, right? And then it goes back to whatever setting I had it at last. That on-rail user interface is great at remembering what your settings are for different modes. Love it. Whatever I'm feeling, right? If I just want this thing sitting beside me in the dark while we watch whatever show we're watching on Netflix, it just, every time I look at it, just brings me joy, right? It's just doing its thing. It's not necessarily serving a huge purpose, but it's doing its thing, and I have that connection with it now, that soul-binding connection with it, that just makes me love it. Like, you know, it's this, what do you call that? You're struggling for dialogue today. That uncompromising, I guess, infatuation with the object because of those elements. Yeah, I'm starting to repeat myself. Guys, I think you get it. This was a fun one for me. Let me know if you guys, how you know, if you've experienced the same thing, if you define it differently, how, you know, if you have something to add to it. Obviously, I'm always up for discussion, different perspectives. But if you enjoyed this episode of The Knife Guy, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.